Dolly, are we allowed to start? I'm not doing anything until Dolly tells me to. Dolly actually was one of the first people I met at CUNY in 2006 when I came to be interviewed to be Dean of Macaulay Honors College. So let me start with a thank you to Dolly. Woo, 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 woo. And welcome to the kickoff of the CUNY Women's Conference Week. And of course, it is Women's. Hi, Glenda. Sorry, I'm like the kid in the kindergarten who's like, hi, everybody. It's like, but my mother's not here. So I feel sad. But Phalo's in the house. The Chancellor's in the house. So, right. So it is Women's History Month. It is the launch of this fabulous week, and also tomorrow is International Women's Day. And so maybe I should tell you that, yes, we're in the house of Franklin Delano Roosevelt, but more important, we're in the house of Eleanor Roosevelt. And Eleanor Roosevelt is really a hero of mine for many, many reasons. But, to be in this house where she lived with Franklin and her mother-in-law next door always really, really pleases me. So I want to welcome you all warmly today, welcome you to this panel. Warm thanks to Harold Holzer, who runs Roosevelt House for Hunter College. And you're in Hunter and CUNY's home for policy, history, and human rights. So I think this afternoon's panel will touch on lots of things about the future, and that's really, to me, what Eleanor Roosevelt was all about, was the future of women, the future of human rights, and the story of how AI unfolds is very much going to be one about human rights, if we do it right. Oh, actually, if we do it wrong, it's going to be about human rights also. So thank you very much. Let me turn you over to Wendy.
Thank you, Anne. Who knew? We just asked you to do that. It's like she had that all. I mean, you and I were like, did she plan those comments? That was so flawless. It is such a pleasure to be with all of you this afternoon. Can I say here at the front that the Office of Academic Affairs team is dominated by women? Many of you are in the room, so I feel like I must have. There are outstanding men in the all over the Chancellor, including the Chancellor. But I do want to take a moment to note that incredibly strong, wonderful women on my team, and I'm really proud of that. So my pleasure to bring you all into a conversation today that has been one that we've been having, which is on artificial intelligence, and really what I consider, and I think many do, as one of the most transformative moments in human history, potentially. When we think about what AI will touch on in higher education, it is literally what we teach, how we teach, where we teach, how we act as employers in the university. I know there's lots of women here today that are on the operations side who will be affected by that. And frankly, how we manage community growth and relationships and everything, because it will touch on equity and fairness and all of those different pieces. And that's just to touch and scratch the surface of what's coming. The most analytically helpful thing that I ever heard AI described to was electricity. When you think about how the invention of electricity touched and changed literally every human activity, that is what we think is coming now with the advent that's already here, not 5 years from now, not 10 years from now, but literally as we sit here. And some of you are super experienced and into this space, and some of you are still new to it. So this should be a great conversation today. And the question you may be asking, and I will admit, I asked it when Dolly asked me to do this. How does this relate to Women's Week? And the truth is, because it addresses two pillars of the conference and this week and the different things we're talking about: career advancement and challenges and opportunities for leadership. This should be front and center for any of you that are thinking of any of those things. And so I think it actually is a very intertwined concept, and of course different topics on equity will be part of it as well. This, to me, I think is an incredibly exciting time for the university, for society. It's also incredibly daunting, but the more we inform ourselves, the more we proactively lead into these changes as educators, the more positive this will be, not only for CUNY, but also for society as a whole. So very exciting to have this conversation today. And before I announce my colleagues in the conversation today, I just want to note, as I said, we have been thinking a lot about this, and this conversation coincides with our plans to create a system-wide engagement around artificial intelligence. We're already deep into that conversation, and it fits nicely, and I think we should recognize the historic $75 million gift that our Chancellor just secured. 1/3 of that gift at the moment, I haven't seen it in writing, but 1/3 will be dedicated to AI research. So all very much it's an exciting time of momentum as it builds here. So let me, with that introduction, introduce the main event, our panelists today. We have, as you already heard, President Ann Kirschner, who is Dean Emerita of the Macaulay Honors College and former special advisor to the Chancellor. And of course now, I thought you were like, yeah, Ann, all right. This is a warm, receptive crowd. It's not usually what I feel when I'm up. I just want to enjoy the moment. But as we know, President Kirschner brings a wealth of experience, not only in higher education, but as an entrepreneur and digital strategist. With a background as a senior executive, 5 technology startups, I did not know that, Ann, including NFL.com and Fathom, one of the first online teaching companies. President Kirschner possesses a deep understanding of the intersection between technology and education, and she is an incredibly valuable voice in navigating the evolving landscape of AI in academia. I'm also pleased to introduce Rob Domanski, who is the Dean of Academic Innovation and Outcomes at Hunter College. I love that title, Rob. His portfolio includes strategic planning for student postgraduate success, digital transformation, and online learning. A perfect alignment, really, for removing systemic barriers to careers for all students. Earlier, Dr. Domanski served as the Director of Higher Education for the New York City Mayor's Office of Talent and Workforce Development, where he oversaw the city's Tech Academic Council and our beloved CUNY 2X Tech initiative, a $30 million investment. Is Lauren here? I expect to see the pom-pom from Lauren if she is. And that doubled our internship rates at the time and almost doubled full-time employment rates for our partner colleges. So welcome, Rob. Also a pleasure to introduce Edie Ruiz, a graduate of LaGuardia Community College and Baruch College, so she is one of our own. Eddie's held a number of leadership roles at CUNY, including Assistant Vice President for Information Technology at Medgar and at Lehman, where currently she serves as the Chief Information Officer. And I love to see women in that role, Eddie. That is not typical. Vice President Ruiz has received numerous recognitions in higher ed, including the Jane N. Ryland Fellowship from EDUCAUSE. She brings extensive experience in leveraging technology to enhance educational experiences and focuses on information management and technology solutions. So welcome today. Thank you for coming. And finally, it's my pleasure to introduce Gregg Bishop, who is the former commissioner of the New York City Department of Small Business Services. He's an adjunct professor at Baruch College School of Public Affairs. I insist that part of my budget in the future goes toward pom-poms. I insist. There will be lasting change as a result of this conference. Sorry, Gregg, I got distracted there again. I'm like, Ann, it is like being in kindergarten. There's a lot going on. All right, where else? And we were talking just about a recent trip to Brazil that you took with the students, so very, very cool. He is also the executive director of the Social Justice Fund, an initiative funded by the Joe and Clara Tsai Foundation. He brings a critical perspective on the ethical and social implications of AI implementation. And with a focus on equity and justice, his expertise sheds light on the importance of considering the broader societal impacts of AI technology in education and beyond. So at this point, I'll sit down so that we can have a conversation. So I'm going to start. Can you all hear me? Okay, great. So I'm going to start with not a softball question, but an important one, I think, especially for people who are not really engaging in this space. What are you most excited about AI? What is the biggest potential application that you see? And maybe equally important, what keeps you up at night? What are you most concerned about? So Anne, if you want to start, and then we'll just go around.
So I assume we should focus on education, education-related things for AI. I think that what I've seen at Hunter is the extraordinary power of being a college as big as we are, and we're about 23,000 students, and how hard it is to scale student solutions to fit that need. Get them the right classes, get them advisors, get them career advising, get them internships, et cetera. How do you scale? And I think AI has enormous potential in that area. I'm particularly excited for how advisors can use AI to serve more students, to answer routine questions. There's some maxim going around that's something like, AI isn't going to put people out of business. AI isn't going to put people out of business. It's going to focus on people using AI. They will put humans without AI out of business. I didn't say that very well, but you get the point. So I'm enormously excited about that. What am I afraid of? Well, the equities involved in unrolling this technology. But I would also say that one of the things that really does keep me up at night is speed of execution, which is something that universities are not typically, should I say it diplomatically, not typically very good at. This stuff is happening so fast, that unless we get ahead of it and explore and try things and fail sometimes and then go on to iterate, we're going to be left behind. So urgency to me is number one.
Hi, everybody. First of all, I want to say that the vibe in here is fantastic. It is great. Really, it's fun. There's smiles all around. Just to answer the question, I'll say things exciting about AI in the context of higher ed. To Anne's point, right, scale and efficiency, and in some ways that's the low-hanging fruit. What's cool to me, and I see how my wife and my kids are even using it at this early stage, you know, we used to just go to Google, use the internet to get answers to our questions. And what's emerging with AI is that instead of just getting answers, we can actually get solutions to problems that need solving. And once the AI can help us identify those solutions, it helps us build it as well. And I think that is really the Pandora's box in a positive way of things that weren't possible before are suddenly possible. And within higher education, I actually think supporting creativity is really, I think that's where the potential is when we think about where colleges and universities want to head in the next several decades. I think supporting students not only with things like career coaching, academic advisement, a number of other places on the operations side. I think supporting students with creativity, providing more outlets, again, giving them the capability to build things that maybe they wouldn't have been empowered to build before. To me, that's really cool.
Hello, this is really, really great. I'm totally energized. So the one thing that I'm very, very excited about is the potential for personalized learning. I think that that is going to transform the teaching and learning, and it's so critical because we have, in CUNY, we have so many students coming to our doors, different level of educational level and readiness. So AI can have the potential to personalize the learning for each individual student, and that's amazing. The concern to me, and you all touch on all very critical points, the speed that we can adopt is really a concern because it's going, like Anne said, so quickly. It's just amazing that ChatGPT came out in November 2022. It's like, I mean, amazing. But I am hopeful. I do think that these new foundational models, and I'm not gonna get nerdy with you, you know, I'm a bit of a nerd, but it's a breakthrough. And this is gonna really help us transform if we're smart about it. We need to be part of the conversation. You all need to be part of this conversation because you can bring in equity concerns, women's concerns, all kinds of concerns, privacy. So stay tuned and keep informing yourself and learning about AI. It's going to change the way we think in every aspect of our life.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. So in preparing for this, I was thinking about what excites me about AI, and I think, we're about maybe 31 years ago. It's actually 30. In January, I think 1983, was when TCP. I'm gonna get nerdy. When TCP, the protocol was developed and actually connected ARPANET with the Department of Defense, and that's seen as sort of like the creation of the internet. And now today, 30 years later, look where we are, right? It has revolutionized how we communicate. It has made the world even smaller. You know, for those who know my story, you know, I at Brooklyn College was sitting in one of the university's student computer centers. We had, I think it was like Sun Microsystems Unix machines, and there was a group of young men huddled around the computer, and I walked over, and there was this thing called Netscape, and a picture was like loading. And I was like, what is this thing, right? And it was this thing called, you know, it was like Netscape. It's like the World Wide Web. And it was a language called HTML. And literally, you know, the language that I was learning, you know, Pascal, COBOL, none of that, I didn't care about any of that stuff. I wanted to learn that language, right? And because I taught myself how to code, that started my career, et cetera. So that's what excites me about AI. It's the opportunity to level the playing field for everyone in terms of if you understand that skill set. It's the opportunity to expedite research. You know, think about all the things that we're struggling with, like a cure to cancer, HIV, understanding the universe. All those things excite me. What scares me is exactly what you said, is that our universities will be behind. It's not even if we're gonna be behind, we will be behind. Because certainly, even now, like, you know, I remember, like, I dropped out of college because there was nothing in any of the in the computer science courses that was relatable to what was happening at that time. So it scares me that in this body where you have the most diversity, where you have students like me from East Flatbush, Brooklyn, they will not benefit because we won't be able to prepare them for that future. When I started in technology, I was the only person of color in every company that I worked with. And so that's the part that scares me in terms of like, how do we get our community to understand what this is, how to use it, how to actually like support it. Those are the things that scare me. Then I won't go into any of the other things where we see art. Well, I guess life is now imitating art, where when machines start learning, sometimes humans don't benefit. But that's another part of the conversation.
The Matrix. Yeah, so thank you for identifying my nightmares and what keeps me up at night, because the truth is, this is like lightning speed. I know there was a moment last spring, like maybe around January or February, where I kept thinking, my God, we're behind. We're behind. How could I have missed this? I'm like, wait, this just came out. You know, so that's the level of speed. And so, Anne, my first question specifically to you really relates to exactly what you identified. We're talking about the challenge of integrating AI into what we do. And if we are going to ensure that our students are competitive, that they are able to meet workforce demands and not be irrelevant from the minute that they graduate, we have to infuse AI, not just in tech curriculums, but really in every curriculum. And yet what I see is the vast majority of the conversation about curriculum is about cheating. Right? That's sort of where most of the focus have been. And I'll be honest, my response has been that it is critically important, but the least of my concerns at this point. So my question to you is, the faculty are both our greatest supporters and our biggest challenge to some extent, right? In the sense that we believe strongly in faculty governance, and yet to change the curriculum requires a lot of time in general. How do we marry those two things and ensure the curriculum stays relevant while also bringing on board people who, some who are super excited and some who really don't want to learn this new technology?
Are there any faculty in the room? Oh, okay. Then I'll be diplomatic.
You all self-selected here, so I'm going to assume that you are interested in thinking about it.
It has always amazed me that universities, which are the seat of knowledge entrepreneurship, you are the people who bring us forward, who advance us, who change the state of knowledge, that you're also the most conservative group in town, and that when technology rears its head, the first reaction is stomp on it. Let's put this away because it's dangerous. So I think that the number one thing is to sort of be evangelists within your institutions to say, guess what? The genie's not, the toothpaste is not going back in the toothpaste, okay? Your students are using this, your colleagues are using this, and the sooner you get with the program or get out of the way, the better. So number one is, I think, this quality of advocacy. And I agree with you, Wendy. Plagiarism is like the least of it. And any faculty member who expects that you're going to be able to assign the same 3-paragraph essay on the meaning of sunshine or something, forget it. That world is over. So we need to start teaching and learning in new ways. Thank you. I got one fan over here, so I feel really good about that. Oh, more fans! Oh, but I had to beg for it, so so that doesn't count. And by the way,
Try
somebody
harder,
give Phalo
please,
a pom pom.
okay?
Phalo needs a pom pom. I'm sorry, you need a pom pom. Thank you. Thank you. But here's the other piece, and I want to sort of weave together a couple of things that you said. We talked about the sense of urgency. You talked about personalized education, and here's where I think the real challenge to universities may be. I don't know if anybody in this room is a fan of the novel Diamond Age, which is like my favorite favorite science fiction book ever written about education. I highly recommend it. But what it will evoke for you is a future world where personalized, customized education is available to you 24/7. That is the promise of AI. What will it do to the market share of the average university? Which is why the second thing I would bring us to, since CUNY 2X was already in the conversation, is there are new partnerships that we have to build outside of the university, because we cannot be expected to compete. You talked about Pascal going away when you wanted to learn HTML. There are 1,500 scholarly articles, scientific articles, being published every single month on AI, okay? How is a university going to keep up with that? You can't, and you shouldn't expect to. So who are the enlightened companies out there that we can partner with to revolutionize our curriculum, to partner with those faculty members who want to move this forward, and to keep the rest of them from making trouble?
She said it, not me.
I'm an
Remember that.
interim. Of course, that might end today, especially.
I mean, truthfully, this is going to be hard. Nobody likes to be an expert and then be a novice, and that's what this is going to require, right? It's relearning some really interesting stuff. So This is also a place where the student becomes the master. We know that our students are heavily using this technology, Rob, in contrast to some of the faculty. And I think it's almost guaranteed are more proficient than probably most faculty, certainly not all. What are you seeing among students, good and bad? And from your perspective, how do we engage with them to ensure that AI, their use of AI, is both ethical but also helps them be prepared for future careers?
You know, I appreciate the question. First, let me just say to Anne that you are crushing this so far. You really- First, I'll say that I think that the proficiency and the familiarity with AI tools, even among faculty, I think it's actually further advanced than most of us give it credit for. So I saw recently at Hunter College, an unscientific survey was done of all of the Hunter College full-time faculty, and nearly 60% had not only already started using AI tools themselves, but almost 60% had already started incorporating it into their courses, right? So that's eye-opening, and this survey was done in January. Maybe it's further along. On the student side, on the student side, so I was at Bronx Community College about 2 weeks ago for a conference, and I gave my speech on AI, and I was getting some pushback from faculty in the room, right? Things that I'm sure you could anticipate, the type of comments, the concerns, very valid, right? But resisting, right? And those tend to often be the louder voices in the room. But as soon as it was done and everyone stands up and they start walking out of the room, the students who happened to be in charge of the AV in the room, like controlling the projector and whatnot, they were coming up to me afterwards, the students, and saying, I thought that was great. I'm using it all the time. And so you had the faculty, on the one hand, saying, I don't think that we should be using this in higher education. I don't think it's good for teaching and learning. And simultaneously, the students in the same room were expressing how much they're already using it. So, I mean, the ship has sailed. And frankly, even among faculty, the majority of faculty are using it in the classroom. So it really just impresses on my mind the need for guardrails, right? It's happening. It's not a future type of thing. It's already here. It's already in the classrooms. And now we just want to make sure we put up some guardrails, figure out the best practices, how to really use it to get to better outcomes that we're all striving for.
So I'll say two things really quickly. One thing I'm really proud of is we did a whole series on teaching and learning that many of you may have participated in, coming from the Office of Academic Affairs, and every single one of them was oversubscribed by hundreds of people so that we kept adding new opportunities in. So there's a hunger among our faculty, and they were very excited. And the other thing I'll mention very quickly, some of you may have been at CIS's conference that they did. And what I remember from Microsoft's Chief Innovation Officer as it relates to education is he put up on the screen a picture of a hammer and a nail, the hammer being about an inch from the nail. He said, you telling your students not to use AI is like telling them to use their hand to pound in the nail when the hammer is sitting literally right in front of their face. And so it's not a question of if or when, it's how, right? And we need to be talking about the how.
Can I add something to this question in terms of how students are using it? So I do have a 19-year-old at home, and I must say and confess that he was the first one that got me into ChatGPT. And this was in the spring of last year. And of course, we were also preparing for the conference, and I am the co-chair of that conference for IT, and the theme was AI. But it was last spring, right? And I was like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? So I immediately started talking to my academic affairs fellow. Let's do something. Let's prepare, and let's prepare the faculty. Let's do a survey, and we did that. And we began even before the semester started, to the point that there are people that are very interested. Our faculty are interested too. And even before the semester started, they came in and we started talking to the faculty about this new tool. And so we now continue with that. But the point I wanted to make about how students are using it, I'll give you an example. So first, my son started with the free version of ChatGPT. Then he signed up for it. He has done things like create his own bot, upload his notes from a class, and talking about personalized learning, he can say to the bot to come up with multiple choice questions, and the bot will do just the notes that he uploaded, even though it is ChatGPT, so it's not going out there. It's staying within the notes, and it could ask. Actually, you can say that you want a dynamic test, so it will give you a question, you answer, and it will tell you whether it's right or not, and if it's not right, why it is not right. Isn't that amazing? It's just incredible.
Although I will say that we have found in OAA, as we're experimenting, that it will give us the wrong answer, and we know it's wrong. And we'll say, but you just gave me the wrong answer. I said, I'm sorry, I was hallucinating. My apologies.
That is true,
Yeah.
right? But again, in this case, it's like it's staying within the information that you're providing,
Yeah.
because it learned before. And this is what's amazing. I'm getting nerdy again, but it's just amazing.
No, it really is amazing. One of the things I really am fascinated by in terms of higher education is that, Gregg, for the first time really in academia, the locus of expertise is not within the academy, right? It is being outpaced easily. We simply can't keep up. Industry is where this innovation is taking place, and so it creates a different dynamic. And I know Ann was talking about partnerships. How can we use partnerships, or how have you seen partnerships used to really accelerate the integration of AI, and where do you think that that's headed?
So I think in my time at SBS, and we were talking about industry partnerships when I first walked in, it is important for academia to actually open up their doors to industry. And when I say open up their doors, I remember there was a moment, we were actually talking about, I think this was part of the CUNY 2X. It was sort of like, we have all these great tech companies in New York City. Why are you not hiring from Queens College? Why are you not hiring from Baruch? Why are you not hiring from Hunter? You know, why are you just focus on, like, you know, the out-of-state colleges? And I remember we brought the industry execs in a room, and they were like, well, here's why. Like, they're not prepared. They don't know how to work in groups. They don't know this. They don't know that, et cetera, et cetera. Then we brought the university presidents in and said, well, this is what we're hearing from the industry. Like, what's happening? And they're like, well, we don't have any money. We don't have this. We don't have this. We don't have expertise, et cetera, et cetera. And so I think there needs to be more of those conversations. Certainly, the challenge, and again, this is about speed, right? Like, what is and who is the governing body that is sort of like overseeing all of this, right? And I think, you know, the federal government sort of, I think there's now a chief something officer that sort of like figure out the, you know, how AI is implemented, et cetera. But there needs to be a focus on bringing industry, because they're moving very quickly, and academic institutions together to figure out like how to unlock this potential, right? It's actually a matter of national security, I would say, that we as a country need to be proficient in this thing, because the person who finds the cure for cancer, the country that finds the cure for cancer, the country that finds, like, you know, whatever dark matter is out there in space that we can harness, all the things that have perplexed us, these are things that's going to advance whichever country has the ability to harness it, right? And so it should be a national sort of like initiative, and cities can certainly lead the way. But I will say, because I'm an adjunct, and I'm going to get into trouble right now, but faculty needs to also be receptive to this, right? Like, we have, and I from the outside have seen faculty being resistant to change. And you could I know there's a lot of purists, and I get it, right? There's certain, you can't just implement something. You've got to have structure. You have to have rigor. There's a lot of these things that yes, but we have to be able to do like walk and chew gum at the same time, right? And I think, maybe there is a school of excellence or something. There's something where you can get to industry and connect together. But my point is, it is, I think, going to be detrimental to academic institutions if they do not embrace and invite. And it's not just like, putting your head in the sand. You have to say like, okay, I need to talk to the CEO. I want to invite the CEO in and tell us, what are you looking for and how can we be helpful? This is a moment where academic institutions need to be more proactive than we've ever been.
If I can follow up on that, I think that there's an opportunity here for CUNY to be the gigantic university teeming with data, right? With scores and scores of data, to say to the tech companies out there, we're ready to partner. Yep. We're ready. You ed tech company out there, you think you've got a solution to advising or personalized learning or what have you. We want to be your lab. We want to be your learning lab. And to be the front door that says to industry, we are a place where you can experiment. And yes, we put in the appropriate guardrails and privacy, and I don't trivialize those at all. But I think that's how we get there. If we are the ones who say, look, we've got so many students, we're coming up on commencement season. Like, what could be more thrilling than when you're standing there in front of thousands of students who are graduating and you have that wonderful sense of, look what you've prepared them for. But at best, 60% of the students who started, or 50% of the students who started, or 30% of the students who started, they're the only ones who are graduating. We've left so many people out there who have not graduated. Well, how do we use data and AI to bring more students across the finish line with relevant education? If we can say to industry, we want to be the people to solve those problems, as you're saying, it's a competitive American opportunity, and we should really grab it.
A lot there, and we are doing that. I mean, for those of you in the audience who are not, we are beginning. We're actually pretty far along in having those conversations. So if your company or anything and any takers, give me a call. You know where I am. Eddie, as students and faculty become more proficient, something that obviously administrators worry about is privacy and cybersecurity and the challenges. I mean, as we become more open, we become more vulnerable in some respects. And yet, interestingly enough, you don't hear a lot of leaders focusing on that. Could you give us a sense of what you think the challenge is in that space and how you, at least on your campus, CUNY is addressing these type of issues?
That's a great question, and I probably should have said that that's one of the things that keep me awake. But I wanted to keep it really exciting because I do think AI is great. So from the perspective of cybersecurity is something that we are addressing every single day, that it's multifaceted. You have to approach it from different perspectives, with or without AI. So I want to be funny and say I'm hoping AI is going to help with cybersecurity. But let me tell you a few things in terms of being multifaceted. You have the tools that you need systems to help you protect your data, your systems, your network. And CUNY, and I'm sure that you have probably received emails. I know that my campus received email from me. I even send it myself under my email because I want them to pay attention. And we have invested a lot of money. CUNY is investing a lot of money in protecting our network. And so we have to, what's called, you have to reduce your attack surface. And that you do it with tools. And these tools have already been using machine learning. I mean, cybersecurity is an area that AI has already been using. The other aspect of that is the educational part of it. You have to continue to drive home to your community that they need to learn and know and be informed about the threats out there. So take, for instance, ransomware. Did you know that ransomware is an industry? It's just amazing. Like if it was agriculture or technology, an industry, mind you. So we have to be on top of it. We are on top of it all the time, but we need resources. We need to make sure that our vulnerabilities, that we know that the vulnerability for our system. So where does AI comes in terms of what I see are going to be the challenges? So take, for instance, when you get a phishing email, no offense to the actual ocean fish, but when you get a phishing email, you can tell if it is a foreign person, the writing, it's not, it's fishy, right? So you sort of wonder, no, I don't think that this is real. But with AI, guess what? Those emails are going to be well written. So we need to now up our guards, right? What they could also do, they will be able to much quicker get these ransomware attacks because they're going to be able to, for programming, for instance, they're going to be able to use these systems. But what that means is that us, the defender, our partners, the vendors that we have, they also need to be upping their game because they need to use AI to help us stay safe. So the challenge is, like with every new technology, that on one side, it's going to give us a lot of benefits. On the other side, we need to protect ourselves and be defenders. So one day, you all heard of MFA, right? We have MFA, all these steps that you're getting emails from your CIO, from a CIO telling you, listen to those emails, don't get upset. We're doing it for the good of the university. We need to protect our networks. This is simple. Every one of you is responsible to help us protect our network, our data. It's critical. So do that cybersecurity course in Blackboard.
I was just going to say that.
March 29th.
Thank you very much. It's a big issue that we will continue to talk about for sure. One concern that will surprise exactly nobody in this room are the ethical and equity implications of AI. What role should institutions like CUNY, which is extremely unique, play in ensuring that kind of ethical development, particularly in terms of inclusivity and diversity, and what are some of the critical things we should be doing? I'm sure you all want to answer this. I'll start with Ann and then open it up for anyone else.
It is incredibly important because right now a lot of things are free. But guess what? Premium is coming at us like a freight train, right? And I was talking to a search committee that I was charging just the other day about this, and we were talking about the role of the librarian. The role of the librarian is going to become absolutely critical in this area. So yes, they're going to provide you with LexisNexis and you know, all the other databases that you need. But we have to be sure that we also can offer our students the most important tools. And if the dream of personalized learning comes true, then we too have to embed it into our courses. And here's where I think things get really hairy because you know, we all think that there's magic in the face-to-face classroom experience, and there is. But we also have to acknowledge that sometimes face-to-face classroom experiences do not have the outcomes that we want them to. If we're headed towards a world where built-in tutorials that, you know, adapt to your learning style are immediately embedded in courses, we have to make sure that we don't become the have-nots, where our students are in face-to-face classrooms. That may be great, but they won't have necessarily that helping hand that these tutorials can offer. So I think for all of our tech people, for our academic leaders, for our library leaders, they have to be absolutely on top of what these tools are, and then we have to prevail upon our budget people, our legislators, our donors, to make sure that our students have the full benefit of what the new educational equity is going to be. You know, there are some places, plenty of places in New York City, where you don't even have proper bandwidth. Okay, that was a big deal, right? And then came COVID, and students didn't have bandwidth, and they didn't have computers. Now you're going to take that inequity and layer on yet another inequity, which is access to these tools. So it's yet another reason why I think we have to be extraordinarily cognizant of how this world is evolving to make sure that our students don't get left behind.
I think you touched on a couple things, and I was thinking, I can't remember where I saw this study where we were talking about automation, because AI is everywhere. I mean, you know, it's Siri, you know, I forget, I'm an iPhone person, but I don't know what Google has, whatever it is, Alexa, whatever. But one of the things that's projected, that the first group of people that will be impacted by automation is Black men. Like the type of skill sets that Black men are concentrated in are easily automated, right, in the industries. And when you look at around the CUNY, your campuses, who you're seeing, right? Well, first of all, the Black men that make it to college, right? And so I think there's definitely a concern that I have, that you talked about the layering of access in terms of, and CUNY has a way I think about the time at Brooklyn College, like I mentioned in my opening, that CUNY needs to, and I love the fact that you talked about the budget, open up and get our budget folks to understand that CUNY, whenever the premium comes, CUNY needs to pay that premium. CUNY needs to be there at the forefront and offer these tools for free for their students. And if it costs, then, and that's where it comes where, and that's where it comes to, you know, having that relationship with industry, right? Because CUNY needs to be at the door, you know, outside that CEO's office saying, hey, we want your tool, we want to implement your tool, whatever you want to offer it for the open market, like we want the academic rate, and then turn around and give that access to students to play, to research, to figure out how to use for free. Because that's the only way in terms of leveling the playing field, but it's going to cost money. Right, and so, you know, I'm looking at Fellow, but Fellow has to, like, literally, right? I know. So between us, right? Between philanthropy, between, you know, our city officials and our state officials, and this is why I preface as a matter of national security, right? We can't actually have this conversation and say, oh, this is a cool thing. Oh, this is something like, you know, we have to say it is imperative for the future of the United States that we, as a nation, actually get ahead of this thing, right? And so the federal government needs to play a part, the state government needs to play a part, the New York City government needs to play a part, we need to play a part. And I say we, meaning philanthropy. Now, philanthropy will always come back to you and say, well, you know, well, it depends on the type of philanthropy it is. But, you know, we'll probably say, like, oh, well, we need to see the impact. We need to see this. We need to see this. You need to try it out first, and then we'll come in, whatever. But there needs to be a conversation and bring, you know, organizations in the room. You know, because I know, you know, Clara, the principal I work for, she's always interested in sort of like what is possible, the potential, right? But there are other organizations where they're not, right? And so you have to find the right folks to put in the room with the right partners. Because the access is going to be so critical. And that's a part I think about, that where CUNY could play a role in terms of leveling the playing field to make sure equitable access to this technology.
If I could just add something real quick on the equity front, I'll say that one of the great potentials of AI right now within higher ed is on its potential to empower students to circumvent some systemic barriers that have really been in place for decades, right? So for instance, in computer science, right, which women have been like grossly underrepresented in computer science since the 80s, at least, right? Even today, in a lot of computer science programs at the college level, if you want to take a semester-long web development class, right, you might have to spend 2 to 3 years taking prerequisites, everything you have to do just to be able to sit in that classroom, right? And when we talk about personalized learning, when we talk about empowering students, right, that everyone has equal access to those opportunities, right? AI is one of these vehicles that can really help students not have to commit to 3 years of prerequisites in order to get the education and the training and the learning that they want to get. And this has already existed in some capacity, like with different online learning modalities over time, but AI really, I mean, I see it. I see, in my son's, 7th grade class, him and his students, I mean, they're doing things that I used to teach computer science, right? I would have seniors, college seniors, first getting exposed to how to do certain things with AI that in 7th grade, they're now able to do with these tools. And again, I think through an equity lens, people who have been shut out from that in the past, today, right, just with a little bit of coaching on how to use the tools, they have access to all of it.
I just wanted to add that this is the approach that we've been taking and thinking through how to engage the state, how to engage funders. CUNY has a population that must be involved in this conversation. It can't just be the highly funded techs. It can't be the highly funded flagship publics. It has to be where the diversity sits and the people who are going to be most impacted by these developments. So we're on it. We're on it, but we need more help. So anybody out there who wants to help, another call for assistance. Gregg, how about career pathways in AI? Obviously, it isn't just that everything is touching on AI, but are there specific places or industries or careers where you really see this emerging that are opportunities for us to focus on or to direct students to?
So I was thinking about that question, and I thought about, we have at the foundation, we're funding a Web3 boot camp for high school kids. And it really isn't focused on one particular area. It's just to give them a broad taste of what the potential could be. I think I mentioned, research has a huge potential with AI. But, there's the commercial aspect of AI that is emerging. And, similar to like when I was thinking about, how HTML and the web has transformed us, speech recognition, like a lot of these things are going to be, tools for the disabled to sort of like help them, navigate better, right? The automotive and trucking industry, in terms of like, moving materials, you're looking at automative vehicles, autonomous vehicles, sorry. You're looking at, in the manufacturing sector, right? So there's different areas where, if properly implemented, AI will be, actually transformative. And I talked about healthcare, but I think, you mentioned cybersecurity, and I didn't want to touch on this, but the sort of like the military aspect of AI, right? And certainly for us, security, in terms of like our everyday, cybersecurity. But I think, in terms of the military aspect, there's an industry in the defense sector that's trying to figure out how to use AI in a way that, will, I guess, protect humans, right, from war, but certainly, like, depending on how it's implemented, might actually not protect humans, right? It all depends. So again, all these different areas, I think, we don't know until we talk to industry, right? And I'm coming back to the part of like, whether it is the Department of Defense, whether it is, the different companies that are leading and moving rapidly, there should be sort of like, and I don't know if it's an advisory panel or some type of check-in, like how are you doing? What are you doing? What do you need in terms of workforce, et cetera, intellectual capital that we can provide? And what tools are you creating? And again, I love the fact that, when you talked about, like, we have as a system, this sort of like, community that we can offer for you to test, for you to build, and for us to partner. So those, I think, those are some of the sectors that I think will be impacted. But certainly, industry has to sort of like help us, CUNY, figure out exactly where to make those investments.
From a career perspective, I feel that CUNY, the faculty, and of course the leadership in academic affairs need to start thinking about what changes do we need to make to our curriculums? How do we embed the use of AI? Because it's really going to, it's going to be required. Our students, so that they don't stay behind, need to start getting the skill set that they're gonna need in this new workforce. And I don't know how to put it, but it's this thing that is nagging me, like, would the careers be the same? What would it change? What is that? I know it's gonna change, but change to what? And that's what's scary, especially as we have talked about how long it takes us to make changes to our curriculum. So we need to begin that conversation, the sooner the better. And one point I want to make, University of Michigan had actually ChatGPT or using the model, the GPT model, for all of their students. So they are already putting their student on the right track.
Yeah, the cost of that initiative, we've been looking at that too, is extraordinary.
That's why we need more money.
No, I mean, it's true. It's true. And your comments are a great lead-in. We've been talking about academics and students and career preparation. What about us as the employer for so many staff and thousands of faculty and staff? My team has been having a riot. I mean, I think that's probably a good way to put it. We decided that we were going to have our own training sessions on Fridays, where we were going to delve into AI and the use for us as employees, and what could we do with that. And I have to tell you, in the span of about 5 weeks here, even our most skeptical employees, and Denise, I'm looking at you up there, on the balcony, she's not even paying attention to me. She does not know I called her out. That's all right. But it literally is impossible not to understand how enormous the impact can be in every one of our jobs. So my question, Eddie, is that what are some of the exciting developments you're seeing from the employee side in terms of reducing routinized work, in terms of increasing our efficiency and ability to perform our jobs in a way that's excellent?
So do I tell you about what I dream? Like to tell my computer, can you find me that file that I wrote on technology fee? And it goes and find it, rather than I need to think about the structure of my file and go click, 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 click. Like, I am tired of clicking. But on a serious note, I'm really excited about Copilot for the Microsoft Office apps of Copilot.
And all of our employees have that. For those of you who have not tried that yet, it is on your desktop.
So Copilot, we have the Copilot chat, which, that comes without licenses. Then there is the other level of access, which we don't have yet. But I think, and that's the one for the apps.
Sorry, that was Central that had that.
Oh, wait a minute. Ooh.
We're coming soon to a neighborhood near you.
So
we really like it.
Actually, I've been thinking about it. Let me just say, found, I want to go back to what this breakthrough is. So there is the open source community that is out there really taking these foundational models and working on ability of running these models in your own network or even in computers, right? So, because if you have to understand that these models require a lot of computing power, which is why it costs such much money. But where the open source is to try to create models that can run, that does not need that much computing. So I'm excited about what we will be able to do. There's a promise of democratizing AI. And the idea is that not just the very rich companies are going to be able to use them, but that middle-sized company will be able to run these modified models and create applications. So I'm sort of dreaming of the day where you know how much processing, paper, forms. Let's say you went to a conference and you need to submit your travel expense, and you do that once in a while. And you now need to figure out how it is that you did it a year ago, or maybe if you went before the pandemic 4 years ago. Or even credit card reconciliation. Like recently, I had to call my poor accounts payable person like a few times.
I'm cutting Eddie off right now.
But the dream.
Wrap it up, Eddie.
So the dream is that we should, as employees, we should have the right tools, and be able to not spend so much time on the administrative side. That's I ended there.
She did. She did a good job. One thing I will say is if you have not tried ChatGPT, and there's a surprising number of you who have not, it's a free tool. It's on the internet. It will blow your mind. You need to start using it. And it is coming to your desktop. I believe we have the initial rollout, and there is a plan, because it's part of what we just acquired as part of our Microsoft Office. So everybody will be getting that. 2 more questions. Rob, start with you. I hear a lot, and I think I worry, actually, about the relevance, the existential threat to higher education as a result of this type of on-demand access, training, and deep education, right? From your perspective, is there still going to be a need for a large college or university like CUNY?
Come on, of course. It's, I mean, the idea that as an institution of higher education, we would fear like education, that's a crazy idea to me.
They're tired. We need to read the pom-poms are not out as much.
I'm gonna actually, and I could be brief on this, because really, I'll tie it back to something Gregg mentioned earlier, with this analogy of, right, AI today is like the internet in 1994. Like, it's here, we know it's gonna change everything, even though we don't know all the ways how yet, but it's not going any place. We just have to learn, like, what to do with this. I remember, like, as an undergraduate, when I was in college in like the mid to late 90s, right, there were some professors who literally banned students from using the internet, even at home. They were like, if I hear that you are like searching things, getting information not from the traditional sources at the library, then like, that's big trouble. The idea that back then that colleges and universities were somehow going to become obsolete because the internet exists and information is now public, right? It's laughable in retrospect, but I think it is a working analogy, right? Like, what we do is not just provide information, even the cooler things like personalized learning, right? I mean, I view what we do at colleges and universities as a lot more than that, right? And I don't see that core purpose going away anytime soon.
Yeah, I think one of the other ways I think about it is every single person needs to learn how to use this in their lives. What do we do we teach people. That's what we do. That's who we are. So it's actually a wonderful thing for us in many respects if we embrace it, right, and stop fighting it. All right, last question for the panel, and it's for all of you. You have a room full of beautiful, aspiring leaders of tomorrow, and many of them obviously already are leaders. But what is your best advice as it relates to AI, and any concrete steps you would recommend to prepare for what's coming?
So I love what you said, Rob. Literally, do not be afraid. Everyone should have Chat GPT. When I was, researching and trying to teach myself how to code, I would stay up until 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, just like, trying different things. And, you have to dive deep into it because you are going to be the individuals that develop the expertise that then can have these type of conversations and influence. Our elected officials are not going to be at the forefront, right? And so you have to teach them why this is important. You have to teach maybe some funders why it's important. So embrace it, with the intellectual curiosity that I know everyone has in this room, and look for the ways that you can implement it in your everyday life.
I want to put in a plug for Perplexity, which I use now more often, actually, than I use ChatGPT. Although there's one thing ChatGPT is fantastic for, and that's writing limericks. If you have to write, seriously, if you have to write a birthday poem for somebody, use ChatGPT. It's fantastic. But don't tell anybody my secret, because they think I'm writing them themselves. But I think that the advice I would give is that whatever part of the university you are in, whether you're a faculty member in a certain discipline, or whether you're in HR, or whether you're in finance, or in career services, whatever area you are in, there is some expert through LinkedIn or just doing a search who is already sort of a leader in how AI can transform your field. Like for me, there's a fellow at University of Pennsylvania named Ethan Mollick, whom I follow religiously. Somebody else follows him? Yes. I follow him religiously on LinkedIn. I even subscribe to his Substack and whatever, because I find his examples of how he uses it at Wharton to be just beyond anything else. So I would urge you to find that person and just read them, because they're gonna have 5 examples that you will find electrifying. By the way, the word electrician, you use the analogy of electricity to AI. The word electrician was selected to denote the person who fixes electricity because it sounded like magician. And people thought electricity is like magic, okay? And AI, in many ways, feels like magic.
That's very interesting. First, I'll say, because again, with a bit of a computer science background, AI doesn't strike me as magic, it strikes me as math. Just the way I think of it, which is the opposite of magic.
I like magic.
I'll just say, I think the question, right, how can everyone in the room maybe start considering using AI in terms of leadership? I think that's more a question about leadership, honestly, than it is about AI. I think the usual principles of leadership still apply. Looking at everyone in the room, right? Look for where the opportunities are, right? Look at problems that need solving and start thinking about, is AI something that can help us solve that problem, right? It's a means to an end. And I'll go back also to something that was mentioned a little earlier. I mean, I'm a big believer in the idea of public service and doing things right for the people. Yeah, pom-poms.
They got it left.
I'm gonna start expecting pom-poms everywhere I go. Yeah, I'll say that in the public service context, it's, AI, it's super cool. We want to figure out what to do with it, et cetera. But honestly, AI for what, right? To what end? And ultimately, we, the broader we, right? We want to all be thinking, and we need the humanities and social science folks. We need everybody. We want to all be thinking about, what can AI do for us, for CUNY, for New York City, for humanity, right? It's is this going to be a means to that positive end? What are the outcomes that, even on a smaller scale, we can use AI to, what problems can it solve for us today? Problems that can help us solve a couple of years down the road. But really, it is a leadership question, right? It's look for those opportunities, figure out how we can use it to advance the goals that we're trying to pursue.
So I will say that if you feel that you need to know a little bit more about AI and demystify AI, right, this black box, just do some YouTube videos. There's short videos that can give you a very good introduction. And from a leadership perspective, encourage your coworkers, your staff to use it. I know that I'm in IT, because you're in IT, you sort of tend to try new things, but you'll be surprised. Not everybody jump on it. I do encourage the staff to do it. I will say to you, do the same. Use it yourself and encourage others to use it. It's about getting things done faster and easier, because the truth of the matter is there's only 24 hours in a day. I feel that I'm always pressed for time, and if I can find a tool, a hammer, I want to use the hammer.
Well, I will give my own advice in this sense, because I think it fits well with the theme of this conference, and it is that your professional development matters. And it matters to CUNY, that you not only do your job and do it well, but that you continue to acquire the skills and the expertise that you need to move forward in your career. And the only way to do that, and we know that, is to set aside the time to do that, despite the demands that are constantly coming at you. That's why we created that session in my team to sit with AI, because I'm super interested. I know how important it is, but unless I have scheduled time into my calendar to learn how to do it, I'm not going to. And so thank you for scheduling your time to be with us today to start the conversation. Thank you to our panelists who are excellent. And I believe there is a special thank you to Dolly as well for being the organizer. So I'm going to turn it over to Dolly, and thank you, panelists. This was very informative, very interesting. Thank you.
I just want to say thank you, and this is for all of you. We celebrate you, all the women and the men. But the women, happy International Women's Day tomorrow.
Do you want to, is that a better? Oh, okay, I've got a loud voice, but all right, so before everybody exits, I just want to say thank you so much for our panelists. It's such an invigorating conversation to have at this point. But if there's one thing I'm taking away too, so much of the fact that they're saying do not fear it, because the artificial intelligence really is just enhancing your human intelligence, right? And if this room is full of women who are problem solvers, we know we can make this work for us. It's gonna free up so much of our mental load to do other more important works. So ladies, let's get to work and not fear AI. Right? So thank you so much for all that wonderful feedback and for the work that they're putting in and giving us access. Now, it's amazing that the time has come to an end, but we are not done yet, people. So I want to let you know, just thank you all for spending this time on your professional development, and to our wonderful speakers today, Mayra Linares Garcia and also Ana Almanzar, and our wonderful panelists. Let's give them a round of applause. And also, what we have coming up, because as Philo said earlier, today's not it. Today's just the start of an amazing month of events. Yes, let's get those pom-poms up, because I know you're all tired. Okay, ooh. So we have community service, as we said, March 18th, right? So go to the website or get in touch with Dolly's office to figure out how you can contribute and give back on Monday, March 18th. I believe there are 2 shifts you can do, morning or afternoon. Some amazing things you can do. And then coming up as well, we have the virtual conference on March 19th and March 21st. This is such a wonderful opportunity to listen to your peers, the leaders, the worker bees, the people who've also put in to present their findings and everything in the 3 tracks that we talked about, right? Career advancement, challenges and opportunities. How do we mobilize our communities? It's gonna be so rich in discussion. So please sign up, watch for those emails, and sign up for the sessions. And we have a wonderful panelist of our male presidents who are going to be sharing their insights on what it's like to also lend their voice to female leadership. Because last year we had a wonderful chat with female presidents, and now we're going to hear from our men, a few good men, as we said, and happy to hear their insights on what they can do to contribute to our cause. And also we have a special speaker, Tiffany Taylor, on that day, and then also our Student Women's Leadership Conference on March 20th. Let's hear it for our students. Yes, who are also bringing their leadership and setting the standards, right, for who we see coming before us. How exciting is that? But they got some fun speakers. They have their own panel coming up, as well as a special guest performance from our hip-hop leaders. So I'm a little too old these days. I come from the world of Wu-Tang Clan, I won't tell you. Old school hip-hop, right? But how amazing is that? And then we have, again, look at these amazing panelists of women speakers that we have lined up on March 20th. So I hope you will all engage and listen. And then, sorry, I'm so excited. And in entertainment, arts, and culture, look at the diversity of the women up there speaking to us, representing. Yeah. And then back on the 21st, we'll be hearing more from our colleagues as well, but also from Camille Joseph Varlak, the Mayor's Chief of Staff. Check out these female leaders. And first time, and our panelists, again, we're welcoming back Eddie, who will be speaking again on navigating the landscape of leadership as a woman. I don't think you should miss this conversation. And also, we'll be hearing from, and then closing remarks on March 22nd at Hostos Community College. Yeah. So we hope you will join us. It's going to be a fun event. The Cayman will come out, I'm sure. And we have Ermina Palacio, who will be speaking to us, as well as Tanya Kinsella, First Deputy Commissioner of New York City Police Department, right? So what a wonderful panelist of strong women leaders to show you how amazing and what a force we are to be reckoned with in this world. So go forth, ladies, and enjoy the month. And please network. We've got the house, Roosevelt House, till 4 o'clock. So I say, mix with your colleagues and exchange cards and all of that, and go back upstairs and make sure to take lots and lots of pictures, okay? Thank you so much for your participation today.